Well, South Africa missed the International Telecommunications Union deadline for DTT, that's Digital Terrestrial Television migration. That's the set-top box, the thing that gets your TV signal. Now, with us is Wiiliam Stucke. He's an independent ICT consultant. Wiiliam, I remember around about 2011, they said the deadline is now, we've got to do it, but the absolute final deadline for us to do this is 2012. We're still talking about it in 2015. Mm-hmm. Why?
That's a very good question. South Africa agreed with over 100 other countries in 2006 that it would happen by yesterday. Today, sorry. And at that time, it was planned that it should be finished in 2011. The process hasn't started. So it hasn't finished,
What's the delay? Why aren't we able to start the process?
There are 6 important dates involved in it. The first date is the date when we officially switch on the digital signal in the first region in the country. Mm-hmm. And then the second date is when we switch it on in the last region of the country, and then the third date is when we switch off in the first region, and the fourth date is when we switch off in the last region, and the fifth date is when we start doing the digital-to-digital migration, which of course government had completely forgotten about, and the sixth date is when we finish the digital-to-digital migration, and only then will the spectrum be available for its purpose, which is for broadband.
What's the problem? Incompetence, political agendas, contracts, what?
The Minister is responsible for setting the first date when we start the digital transmissions and the fourth date when we finish the analog transmissions. Neither of those dates have been specified. Minister after minister has said it's going to be real soon now, and it just hasn't been.
Wiiliam, it certainly sounds like, to me, the government shouldn't be leading this process. Maybe this is not their core competence. Is there scope for other people stepping up to the plate and leading the process? Could private sector come to the party and actually get us moving forward? It's been 4 or 5 years of wasted time.
Everyone else is ready.
And everyone else is all the other countries that are...
No, everyone else in South Africa. So everyone else in South Africa is ready. The Centec, who's the signal distributor for the SABC and multi-choice terrestrial signals and ETV signals, has had their network. They've covered 84% of the population with terrestrial signal, and the other 16% with the satellite signal. The various broadcasters, including the SABC, are all ready. The regulator is ready. The regulator has the regulations in place. I chaired a group called the JSAG, which had all those parties in one room and sorted out all the interference issues. I did that for 2.5 years until I left Jakarta, and everyone's ready.
So let's put the question another way around. The absolute final deadline was 2012 or 2011. We're now 2015. Hey, if we could have gone on for another 3 years, why can't we just carry on indefinitely?
Okay. What the immediate influence or the immediate effect of missing the deadline is embarrassment. Okay? Malawi, Tanzania and Mozambique have not only started, they've finished the process. Okay? South Africa hasn't started yet. The issue that's exercising people's minds is the question of set-top boxes and the question of whether those set-top boxes should include some sort of conditional access. In other words, that's if you look at your multi-choice, your DSTV, for example, if you have one bouquet, you're allowed to watch certain channels. Right. If you have another bouquet, you're allowed to watch other channels. Set-top box control does that sort of thing. Okay, this is in many people's minds irrelevant for a free-to-air broadcast where everyone can see everything. The important point we need to understand is that a set-top box is only a temporary expedient. It's only for those people who still have an old-fashioned, thick, big...
in other words, they don't have the DSTV box.
People who don't have a flat-screen TV.
So here's what I'm grappling with.
If you've got an old-fashioned TV, then you need a set-top box. If you've got a new TV...
You don't need it.
You don't need it.
Doesn't matter.
But Wiiliam, what is Malawi doing right that we're failing to do? If we were to bring it down to its granular form, what is the most pertinent reason why South Africa has not been able to move? Is it corruption? Is it confusion? Is it a policy issue that's not being applied? What's the single most important variable here?
It's a policy issue. Last year, what was the Department of Communications was then split into two groups. And the previous minister was a very hard-working person, was not brought back. Two other people were appointed in charge of the two different groups. It took them quite a long time to get on their feet, and they bickered about who was responsible for this. So that caused some of the delays. And the external cause for the delay is the disagreement between MultiChoice and ETV about whether there should or should not be
the future,
conditional access.
Is there a cost? I was going to say, how much will it cost us not to do this, or isn't there a monetary cost to this?
Every day that we delay is another day when we don't have cheap, efficient broadband to everyone in the country, in particular in the rural areas, because there are two lumps of spectrum called the 700 megahertz and the 800 megahertz band, which are also known as the digital dividend, and the whole purpose of the exercise is to make that spectrum available. The fact that broadcasters get more channels is a bonus. The reason for doing it is make that spectrum available. If the minister was to gazette tomorrow, that tomorrow is the start date, we would not be able to make that spectrum available for at least 2 years.
Wiiliam, thank you so much for your time. And we're just beginning to scratch the surface of this conversation, which, of course, got everything to do with the digital divide that we've been trying to bridge in the South African context.
Have you got a DSTV decoder? So it doesn't affect us.
I needed to watch you.
Doesn't affect us. That's Wiiliam Stucke. He's an independent ICT consultant.